This is Last Epoch, a game that when it was first introduced, received quite a lot of support from ARPG fans, especially when Last Epoch was also created by a team of die-hard fans of this genre. An interesting thing is that even many people in 11th Hour Games do not have any experience in making games at all, but in the end, many people made predictions that the Last Epoch can knock down Diablo 4. Some even think that this game will cause Path of Exile to leave its long-standing monopoly. So how good is Last Epoch? Don't worry, I have spent more than 100 hours since the game was not officially released to experience this game. So next, let's review and evaluate this game with Stranger Games. Let's begin. The ARPG genre is certainly no longer strange to gamers today. Since Diablo was released and culminated in Diablo 2, every ARPG game released has received extreme scrutiny from the community passionate about this genre with the desire to find a true successor. Sadly, Blizzard's subsequent Diablo versions were not as successful as expected. Even though Diablo 4 was better, it still faces many problems that fans should frankly admit. Meanwhile, Path of Exile is a great alternative. But when you have spent thousands, even tens of thousands of hours playing it, the desire to try a new game is inevitable. That is also the reason the Last Epoch was created, and this game can be said to be like a cross between Diablo 4 and Path of Exile. 1. Start. Extremely diverse. You will start by choosing a character class for yourself. The starting point is the Sentinel with a sword and shield, is strong and has a lot of health. Then there is the Mage who can use all kinds of magic. Then the Primalist can control the environment and turn into a bear. Or Rogue, so you can always be tender while defeating all your opponents. And finally, there is Acolyte, just like Mage, but the magic will lean more towards evil. With the 5 options mentioned above, many players may now choose that Last Epoch offers too few types of options. But actually, they still have to decide which direction their character class will go. And this is where the variety of this game becomes increasingly apparent. Within each character class, there will be 3 more subclasses. Once you reach around level 15, for example, Rogue players will be able to choose between Blade Dancer, which makes dancing amidst the enemy's siege even smoother, or switch to using a long-range bow with Marksman, or the third option just recently introduced into the game by the developers, Falconer, with the ability to control a falcon in many cases in many different ways. Another example is Acolyte with a variety of evil spells. Your decisions will greatly affect the direction of this character class. We can choose Necromancer to focus on calling the dead to fight on our behalf, or switch to Lich to use our own shadow to create evil magic. Or evil magic will focus on the soul aspect and spells more with Warlocks. Throughout the 5 character classes, there will be such choices. All will have 3 subclasses, a total of 15 subclasses for players to freely choose from. If you still feel it's not enough, Last Epoch also has a fairly diverse skill system so you can create your gameplay. That's not even mentioning the specializations for skills. For example, a skill related to fire can be transferred to an electrical if you want. Gentle and very ordinary moves, like a slash, can also be upgraded to a very far and wide slash. This helps the game have many unique and strange builds. A mage can wield a sword with the Spellblade subclass and then perform common Wibu tricks like electric slashing. Or a Primalist can turn into a bear and run around. As long as you want, the game will find a way for you. It's all to help make the journey through the plot of Last Epoch exactly what you want. By the way, we should also mention the plot of this game a bit, right? 2. Plot, fine. The story of Last Epoch will not be too difficult to understand, too bland-like in Path of Exile. Well, I know that when playing ARPG, no one cares about the story, but 11th Hour Games still puts quite a bit of effort into this part. Maybe the purpose is to help you not get too bored and give up. In the game, you are a resident of this world, Terra. Currently, there is a war between ancient gods, leading to their supporters also participating in the war. Although the player character does not follow any side or support any god, that cannot prevent us from getting into trouble. Then after once rescuing an elder named Keeper, this person used magic to bring you to the future world. Here the gods have all died long ago, with somewhere a reminder of the existence of a character named Immortal Emperor. People now have to hide underground, trying to survive each day under the threat from nowhere. You will be able to change the dark future through time jumps. Of course, things won't be that easy, because the game's plot is still not 100% complete. The truth is, few people play ARPG games like this because of the the story, so 11th Hour Games has chosen the most basic things possible for Last Epoch. There are dangers, there are difficulties, and there are important characters, but the game doesn't give you a reason to care about what's going on. Instead, the plot of Last Epoch will only try to bring you to the endgame, the most important thing in this game genre, without giving up or getting discouraged. Of course, in the future, the development team can add new details just like Path of Exile. I still remember that it took Grinding Gear Games quite a year for the game to reach map 10, so whether the plot becomes more interesting or not, we will still have to wait a while. But at least Last Epoch brought some quite interesting boss fights according to the events it told. For example, the god Lagan can hit you if you are stupid, or the snake goddess Majasa with 2 different faces. It won't all be too difficult, but it won't be too easy either. 3. Endgame Attractive. After overcoming the approximately 20-hour story of Last Epoch, gamers will be able to reach the endgame part of the game, where the real journey begins. For a good ARPG game, the publisher will certainly not be able to neglect this content, and in the Last Epoch, this stage will be in the form of monoliths or other timelines. These are timelines where the plot will change a bit if you pay attention. Things like the immortal emperor destroying all the rebels, or the gods failing to destroy the dragons and losing the war. Things like that. Monolith will be where you spend most of your time in the endgame phase of the game. There are 10 different monoliths for you to play with. Every time you complete a monolith, you will receive any blessing to choose from. These are different gifts, which can help the gamer's character. Monolith will also be where gamers find special and much better equipment than when going through the original plot. Monolith's branches will also bring us many necessary items throughout the game, such as cliffs to be able to edit furniture in the crafting section, keys to enter different dungeons, or at least experience to level up. If we go far enough in this timeline, the player can also proceed to increase their corruption level, which will lead to monsters being stronger and more aggressive, and importantly, the loot obtained is also better. Not to mention, after completing all 10 monoliths of the game, you will be able to unlock the empowered monolith to enter the true end game. Here, everything will be much more challenging. Gamers will also be able to raise the level of corruption much higher than normal monoliths. Of course, along with this difficulty will also come better rewards. In addition to monolith, players can also try dungeons, where they will need a key to enter. The rewards for each dungeon will also be different. For example, Lightless Arbor will let you exchange money for purple equipment, or Temporal Sanctum, where if you defeat the final boss, you will be able to turn equipment with the status line Legendary Potential into Legendary after combining with purple equipment. Not to mention Soulfire Bastion or Arena. All of these things help make the endgame phase of Last Epoch not boring at all. You don't even have to go too deep into endgame activities to find good gear and loot. The reason is that the game's crafting system is also very elaborate. With a little research and experimentation, gamers will turn a piece of scrap metal into a genuine item. If an item lacks an attribute, just add it. The only problem is whether there are enough items to assemble, but rest assured that thing won't be too difficult to find throughout our journey through time. All players need to do is own items with good attributes and disassemble them, so you will get the attribute pieces you need. In addition, in Monolith, there are also full directions so you can farm more of what you need. The best thing is that this system is not too difficult to understand or complicated like Path of Exile's crafting. Another option in finding equipment would be factions. To put it simply, players can choose between 2 different factions in the game. Each faction will have a different way of operating, but the similarity is that they will all help players find the piece of equipment they want. Those 2 factions are the Merchants Guild and Circle of Fortune. On the Merchants Guild side, players will be allowed to trade and sell their items with in-game money. Each exchange will cost an amount of favor tax that will be obtained when killing monsters. This is to prevent players from just buying and selling and not playing the game. Once an item has been purchased, it is locked with the character and cannot be bought or sold again to avoid confusion when buying and selling. As for Circle of Fortune, players will use the favor they earn to exchange for predictions, which will help us find good items if done correctly. For example, kill any boss to get 10 unique pieces of equipment, or kill 10 monsters to drop purple equipment. The higher the rank, the more benefits the factions bring. Items from 2 different factions cannot be exchanged no matter what. I don't know what the purpose of locking the exchange between 2 factions is. Perhaps to avoid players exchanging real money. Another presence of anti-exchange with real money is the exchange mechanism between friends. Gamers will have to play with another person many times before being able to exchange something. Although I haven't tested this mechanism much yet, it's truly a great idea. Do you think so? 4. Other factors. At this point, we also need to talk about the difficulty of the game. This is a topic that is also mentioned many times in interviews with people who have played this game. It must be affirmed that the developers of Last Epoch have tried very hard to make the game's mechanics as easy as possible. The difficulty of the combat levels will also be at a moderate level, so much so that in the game's comments there is a saying that I feel is very true. It's not too complicated like Path of Exile, but it's also not so easy that it insults gamers' intelligence like Diablo 4. This is a very good point of Last Epoch. After all, this is a game. You have to be challenged at a moderate level to be interesting. By the way, I think we also have to talk about the soundtrack of Last Epoch. This factor is not really that prominent. Just like the game's plot, the background music is only at a basic level. To put it most optimistically, it's just enough. Throughout more than 100 hours of play, I received almost no emotion from the game's background music. If anything, it's a feeling of sleepiness because it's been repeated a bit too much. So if you intend to play this game, prepare a separate playlist. I'm serious. Okay, back to the last issue I want to talk about is the game's optimization level. The Last Epoch operates quite smoothly. Somehow I was able to open all 3 games at the same time on my computer, and the game still ran great. But that's not including the game's servers. I don't know if this server was created on potatoes or sweet potatoes, but in the first days when patch 1.0 officially launched, I couldn't even access the game because the number of players increased dramatically. 11th Hour Games somehow underestimated the number of veteran ARPG players from Diablo 4 and Path of Exile that would visit their servers, so the first few days I experienced with many others were a bit uncomfortable, so the game's rating on Steam also dropped in the first few days. Up to now, although things have become more stable, that doesn't mean you won't encounter strange phenomena caused by the server. Playing with friends will mean lag, and co-op dungeon with other players will also mean lag. Sometimes the server will prevent the player from completing a certain task and lose connection. Furthermore, this game operates very smoothly for most of the playing time, but of course, there are still a few bugs. It's all quite strange. For example, when you're fighting a boss, you drop an extremely rare unique ring, but you can't get it no matter what. If I were to lack control, my computer screen would probably be broken. However, that may just be a symptom of a newly officially released game. After all, the developers still need quite a bit of time to fix them, and they have done it quite well in the past. Ignoring the server's instability, Last Epoch still has some small problems, such as a slight lack of equipment for players to upgrade their build, or related to game balance, or the lack of character creation, while many players have been crying for this functionality in recent days. But 11th Hour Games can also use the reason that their company is just a small indie company, please understand gamers, to defend themselves. In fact, their company is really small. So in the end, is Last Epoch a game worth playing? The answer is yes. If you're a diehard fan of ARPG, The Last Epoch will be a game worth trying. At least this game can serve as an entertainment product while we wait for other top games to be released. Now, if you find this video interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Stranger Games channel so you don't miss any videos from us. Goodbye and see you again.